Muy buenos días. El programa Círculo del Conocimiento de Coordinadora les da una cordial bienvenida. Agradecemos la respuesta que han tenido con nuestro programa, que tiene el objetivo de trasladar el conocimiento en tiempo real, desde ciudades y centros académicos internacionales donde se origina el conocimiento del momento, con los últimos temas y tendencias que direccionan para que las compañías sean realmente exitosas. La innovación es un reflejo tácito de lo que las compañías requieren para diferenciarse y obtener un sello propio que le otorgue la personalidad que lo hace relevante en el mercado. Hoy es un día muy especial. Muchas teorías se han construido alrededor de este tema que hemos seguido con atención. Pero hoy precisamente tenemos la oportunidad de conocer de primera mano la consultora, autora del libro bestseller The Membership Economy, quien se destaca por innovar en las empresas Netflix, eBay, Yahoo, Oracle. Por primera vez en Colombia, demos la bienvenida a Robbie Kellman Baxter.
Thank you so much, Columbia, for the very warm welcome. This is my first time, and I want to thank Coordinadora for making this such a special occasion. Ladies and gentlemen, the future is here, and it's membership. In Silicon Valley, where I come from, you see it everywhere you go. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. Okay, this happens. And so, what I want to start with is to talk to you about what's in your wallet right now. If you looked in my wallet, you would find all different kinds of membership cards. You would find credit cards. Thank you. So what are you a member of? If you looked in my wallet, you would see all kinds of credit cards. You would see my airline cards for loyalty programs. You would see hotel loyalty programs. You would see my university alumni card from Harvard. You would see my university alumni card from Stanford. You would see my library card. If you looked at my computer, you would see dozens of passwords for companies of which I have subscriptions. And if you looked at my bills, you would see lots and lots of monthly recurring payments for different kinds of memberships to which I belong. These are just a few of them. You can see they run a broad range of things from digital natives to gym memberships to social clubs to music to movies. There's a really broad range of what kinds of businesses are moving to membership. Now, one of my favorites is Netflix. So I love movies. And about 15 years ago, I've lived in Silicon Valley my whole life. And about 15 years ago, when Netflix had just gone public, I had been a subscriber since the beginning. And I fell in love with Netflix. I loved having 3 movies out at a time. I loved that they seemed to know what movies I would like and give me recommendations. It was the first time that a company was able to take data about my behavior and give me recommendations of better movies, better things that I might enjoy. And so membership for me started with Netflix. And what happened is they called me and asked me to be a consultant. So I'm a business person. I consult with companies on their business strategies. And they called me and asked me to help them with their acquisition and growth strategies. And I learned so much about their business model, about the way that they focused on serving their members' missions. So they didn't really care about the products they sold or about their own processes or even about, we've had this person here for a long time, so we've got to make sure he keeps his job and does something that he enjoys doing. They were completely focused on the members and on the mission of the members. And that mission at Netflix was described as being making available professionally created video content with cost certainty and the most efficient way possible. And over the years, that's changed with Netflix. So first it was 3 DVDs out at a time. Then when streaming became possible, they introduced streaming. They were one of the first companies to do streaming. And finally, in the last couple of years, they've actually created their own content. And what's really interesting about that is that they're able to be successful and have hit after hit after hit because they know the way we like to watch movies. So they're actually creating content that they know we're going to love. So as I was falling in love with this Netflix model, everybody else in Silicon Valley was falling in love with it too. So I started to get calls, from SurveyMonkey. We want to be the Netflix of surveys, or we want to be the Netflix of software, or we want to be the Netflix of music like Pandora and Spotify. We want to be the Netflix of bicycles. We want to be the Netflix of health management programs. Everybody was on the Netflix bandwagon. And for me, this was really the beginning of the membership economy. So what is this membership economy? It's a term that I gave to define a massive transformational trend that was changing the way every kind of company across every kind of industry, big and small, new and old, were now trying to engage with their customers. And at the heart of the membership economy are four major experiences. The first one is it's about a move from ownership to access. Second, it's about moving from a one-time big payment, which is a big commitment up front, to smaller recurring payments. Less stress up front, easier to join, but also more value over the long term, both for the member and the customer. The third thing is a move from the transactional, which is often anonymous. We don't even know who's on the other side of the transaction. As companies, we don't necessarily know our customers. And as customers, we might not even know the person who takes our order or takes our money. And that's a move from that kind of anonymous relationship to a known relationship where you feel recognized over time. And finally, the membership economy is about communication and connection, timeless human needs. It's about going from one-way communication where I tell you what you need to know, and I'm the company, and I know best, and I do it in big ads and with a big loudspeaker, and you can listen, to having a way for the members or the customers to actually give feedback to the organization. They can actually talk back. And even further, the members can talk to one another under the umbrella of the organization. So you drive a GM truck, I drive a GM truck. What do you think of the GM truck? Well, I actually think it's a gas guzzler. Very interesting. What other options do you have? Some organizations actually create a formal community for this kind of communication. Others fight it, right? So you see organizations that don't want to let their customers talk to each other or talk back because they're afraid of what they're going to say. And obviously, this is a huge mistake. And the fact is that consumers are always going to find ways to talk to each other, to compare notes, and to determine what's the best solution, right? We're crafty people. We want to know what's in our best interest. And the organizations that embrace this, that say we're going to be transparent, we're going to let you talk to each other, we're going to let you talk to us, those are the organizations that are really thriving in Silicon Valley. So, if you look at all four of these together, these are the tools that companies that are disrupting traditional businesses are using. So companies come in, so you think about Uber, right? Uber came in and said, okay, people don't want to own cars. Owning a car doesn't get them where they want to go all the time. Sometimes there's a parking issue. Sometimes there's a risk of having to, incur costs of repairs. Taxis aren't reliable. They aren't safe. They aren't comfortable. So Uber said, okay, we're going to come up with a way that's a more predictable and reliable way to access transportation when you need it. Because remember, in the membership economy, it's about the mission of the members. It's not about the products. So it's not really about a car. I don't really want to have a car just to have a car. I want to have a car so I can get where I need to go in the most convenient way possible. So saw this and they identified a need that wasn't being met, and they jumped right in. So they're looking for ways to disrupt business as usual. Different companies use each one of these. I could go through each one of these and give you examples. Moving from a one-time payment to a recurring payment. If any of you pay big fees to own software, to have on-premise software, compare like what Marketo or Salesforce is doing, where they actually allow you to pay on a monthly basis. So that's a really big change. And then going from the transactional to the relational. This is what is at the heart of the membership economy. So this is about saying, instead of having a nail salon that says we're in the business of giving manicures, right? Nobody really wants a manicure. People want a luxury experience. They want to feel like they look their best, and they want to feel polished. Excuse the pun. And the issue is, I walk out of the nail salon, right? And I look great. But then 1 minute later, I chip a nail, and then I don't feel polished. I don't feel professional. I don't feel great. There are some nail salons in Silicon Valley where instead of selling you a manicure for $20, they say for the month, you can always look good, and that's going to cost you $80. So it's the same as a weekly manicure, but you can stop in and get a touch-up when you need it. Also, you can go on the same day and have your regular appointment so that you have the feeling of connection and community. These are the kinds of ways that companies, big and small, with venture funding and without venture funding, are figuring out ways to create new kinds of relationships and provide new kinds of value that weren't available before. So this is not really a totally new concept, right? We have all been members of things for as long as we've been alive, and membership has been around as long as we've had civilization. This is Charles Dickens, the author. He wrote his books using a membership model, right? So he said every chapter that he completed, he had a group of people who were members who would pay to have access to his latest writing. We also see membership with universities and feeling a sense of loyalty and connection to the other people that went to our schools. Sometimes that's through sororities and fraternities. Sometimes it's just being part of the larger group itself. But we feel membership when we're around people who went to our schools. We also feel membership in our professional associations and trade guilds. These have been around, since the Middle Ages, this idea that people that have the same professional goals can get together. Now, you, with this knowledge circle that Coordinadora is putting together, this is an opportunity to kind of create that same sort of experience, an opportunity to talk to other people that have similar challenges and compare notes. Not a new idea. Membership is how we feel when we practice organized religion. It's that feeling of connection, of a shared mission, and of doing something with other people around us to connect to. And membership is how we feel when we're with our family, at least sometimes, right? Sometimes we feel a real connection and a sense of belonging when we're with the people that share our blood and our history. Membership is also how we feel when we are watching sporting events. If I see somebody that has a San Francisco Giants logo, I feel a little more connected with that person. I trust them a little more. I like them a little more. And when I go to the games, I feel like I'm among my people. And I root for the people down on the field, even though I don't even know them and I don't even know how to play baseball. But watching them and feeling this sense of connection is something that taps into a basic human need. So why are we talking about the membership economy today? As was mentioned earlier, the book, The Membership Economy, is a bestseller. It's been translated into multiple languages. People are talking about membership everywhere you go. And membership economy businesses are disrupting every industry. They're changing the way small businesses are expected to work, right? You're expected to have an app. You're expected to have an online community. You're expected to recognize your customers when they come in and make recommendations for them. It's changing things for big companies where they're expected to take all of the big data they're collecting and provide better experiences for their members. Millennials especially expect this kind of treatment. It's what they've grown up with. So why is this all happening now? Technology is extending the infrastructure that enables trusting relationships. at the heart, membership is about trust. It's about feeling a sense of connection with the person on the other side of the table. And technology has advanced so much in the last 10 years that it's created all kinds of new ways for us to have that experience. So with the examples I gave you, right, in all of those cases, in order to have those membership experiences, you had to be in person. You had to actually be with the people in the same place at the same time. And membership is no longer limited by time and space. So you can actually feel that connection through your device. I saw, almost all of you have, an iPhone or a tablet or your laptop, even with you here. It's always on. It's always with you. We can always reach each other. So that connects us more than ever. In addition, big data is making it possible for us to collect behavioral information about our customers and analyze it so that we can give them a better experience, right? Not so that we can spy on them and know information that we shouldn't know, but so that we can give them a better experience, so that we can actually know our customers and treat them better. The same way that Netflix is able to anticipate that I'm going to enjoy Orange is the New Black or Narcos, that's the same kind of thing that we all can be doing in our businesses. And if you're not doing it, your customers are going to be annoyed because they know it's possible now. They know that this technology exists that allows you to analyze their behavior. They also know that the cost for you is actually not that high. So there's a sense that this should be how business works. They also know that they should be able to create content. They should be able to share that content, and you should be able to react to that content. They know that it's not hard for you to be able to respond to them, whether it's through a formal public community like Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn, or whether it's through a private community, supported by Mighty Bell or Lithium or one of the other community platforms that allows you to have your own private relationship and community with your members. The other thing that's happening that is really transforming what's possible, and it's changing the expectations of consumers, is the influx of venture capital investment into virtually every segment of the market. And so what that means is money is being provided to disruptive innovators, people with good ideas. And they're saying, here's some money. Go figure out a way to really connect with a group of customers and solve a problem for them, a forever problem, something that's really bothering them. And don't worry about how you're going to get paid. You don't have to worry about that for the short term. Just make sure that you come up with something really awesome, right? So companies like Uber and Netflix and Amazon, they lost money at the beginning, right? They had a lot of runway. So now if you're running a business, you're competing against people that don't have quarterly numbers to meet, that don't have to generate a certain amount of revenue in order to pay all of their expenses. So it's a very different world, and it's a little bit scary because there are competitors that don't have the same rules, right? They have a longer runway, and they don't have legacy systems. They don't have these processes in place or these technologies. They've already spent a lot of money that are a little bit out of date, but still haven't paid for themselves yet. And so it's a new world in terms of the competition, and organizations that aren't thinking about how to build that long-term relationship and how to focus on the long term are going to get beaten out by these new competitors. The membership economy is a massive transformational trend. So I'm going to quickly describe what that is. So the first thing in a transformational trend is that it's driven by a massive change in the environment. So in this case, it's about technology and it's about money, right? There's more money for investment and there's more technology. There's more ways to do this. The second thing is it also ties into a human need. So on the one hand, it's like technology and money, and on the other hand, it's who we are as human beings. So it ties into both. The third thing is we start to see it not just in one industry, but we see it everywhere. We see it in our consumer products. We see it in business to business. We see it in entertainment. We see it in the military. We see it in everything that is dependent on having a customer relationship. And finally, a transformational trend is categorized by the fact that it has become the new normal. So if you were to visit me in Menlo Park, which happens to be the town where Facebook is, it's the town where Google got started. It's a very, techie kind of town. It's where all the venture capital firms are on Sand Hill Road. If you were to come there, you would see that everybody is pretty used to having subscriptions for everything. There are trucks that come around to fix your bicycle and do tune-ups for you every month. You can access your childcare in this way. You can access all of your entertainment in this way. The local bookstore in my town, Kepler's, they don't really make their money from selling books anymore because they realized that what we really want is not to buy books from them anymore. We want exposure to new ideas, and we want to be connected with other people with good ideas, which has always been why we go to bookstores, right? We go to bookstores to get new ideas. It happens to be delivered in the form of a book. But what they found was that Amazon was selling them for a lot less money and a lot more efficiently. So the bookstore was struggling. So what they did is they changed to a membership model. And so now you pay a fee to have access. And what you have access to is the best authors, the best ideas, and the best thinkers in the community. So there are events for members 279 days a year. And those are big events, small events, book clubs, events at the schools, events where children are invited, all different ways of creating connection and discovery of new ideas. Now, you can still buy books at Kepler's, but it's not their primary source of income. So they're staying true to their mission, but they're evolving in the way that they deliver on that mission. So it's really the new normal. It's just the way business is done. So, it's easy to understand why the membership economy is so attractive to us as business people, right? Because we all would like to have recurring revenue. It allows us to plan for the future. It makes it easier for us to get our revenue. It's more, for most of us, it makes us more profitable, right? Because if you have an anonymous transaction, you have to pay an acquisition cost for every new customer. If somebody makes a decision that they're just going to keep paying you month over month, year over year, your acquisition costs go down, your revenue goes up, predictability of cash flow is much better. It's great, right? It's great. Everybody wants recurring revenue. For the last 15 years, I've had companies come to me and say, Robbie, show us how to transition our model to a recurring revenue model. Very rarely do they come to me, though, and say, Robbie, show us how we can provide more value to our customers. Show us how we can unlock stored value and provide new ways for our customers to have their missions achieved. And so I want to just pause on this idea and say, it's really important to think about not just what's in it for us, but also what's in it for them. And it's at that intersection where you say, we are providing so much value to our customers that they are willing to commit to us forever. And in exchange, we are getting a recurring revenue stream. So what's in it for us and what's in it for them? Find a point of overlap and intersection. And that's where we all should be. It's amazing to me, as a consultant and a business person, and as a human being, frankly, that companies come to me, and when I say to them, why do you want a subscription model? Why do you want to transition? They'll say, so we can make more money, right? Like, it's great to make more money, but what's really important is providing more value to your customers, which justifies more money, right? And not only is that good for business, but that's good for our hearts. That's good for us as people. There's lots of data that shows that what makes people happiest, like we might think that we're happiest when we're on vacation doing nothing, but really when you analyze people's happiness, self-reported happiness, do you know when people are at their happiest? It's when they're working on something that's meaningful. It's when they're completely and fully engaged with work that is meaningful. So finding a meaningful way to help customers that also actually helps you generate revenue is really the sweet spot for everybody. Now, when you think about what's in it for your customers, here's a good trick to use. Focus on what Abraham Maslow, the psychologist in the 1940s, taught us, which is that once our basic physiological needs have been met, things like food, shelter, Wi-Fi, we move up the ladder and we want to mitigate risk. We want to be known and recognized. We want to walk into a restaurant and have people say, "Hi, Robbie, do you want the usual? Great to see you. How are your kids? How was your vacation?" We want to be recognized. We want to feel like we belong. And then we want to go one step further. Not only do we want to belong, but we actually want people to think we're awesome. We want people to think that we are worthy of being held in high regard. We want to be admired for both our achievements, what we've done, but also for our contributions. And finally, we want to have the ability to forget about all these basic needs, to know that they've all been taken care of, to free ourselves up to achieve our full potential, right? That's what we want, right? I don't want a car to drive. I don't want to have a car. I want to not have to worry about getting to the places I need to go to live my life, right? And if a car company, whether that's, General Motors or Uber or Relay Rides or Zipcar or Avis or any of the other various kinds of car companies, it doesn't matter to me which one it is, as long as they solve my problem and they're on my team and they've got my back, right? And that's really what Maslow was teaching us. So I wanted to share, this is a big room. There's lots of different kinds of people in this room with lots of different kinds of businesses. And some of you might be saying, gosh, this is really interesting, but I don't run Netflix. I've bootstrapped my business. I run a small business or a medium business. I don't have venture investing. I've done this myself by growing slowly and carefully over time. Or I have a very traditional business, Robbie. I don't have this digital business. I do construction, or I work directly with customers. Or Robbie, I'm in B2B. I work directly with businesses. Those aren't consumers. Those are business people. So I wanted to just take a minute and walk you through a bunch of different kinds of examples of the different kinds of companies that are transitioning to membership, because this is a big deal. It's really not limited by the size of your company, by how long you've been around, by how many technologists you have on staff. And in fact, what I would say is, if marketing matters at your organization, if you're not guaranteed that people are going to come in the door because of your geography, because of your monopoly, because of your regulatory advantages, if you need to market, if you need to sell, if people have choices besides your organization, you need to think about this. So here are some examples, right? Let's start on the left side. So on the left side, we have what I would call the digital natives. So that's subscription businesses like SurveyMonkey, like Ignite, which is for storage, Dropbox, Boxnet, companies where you have a subscription. And then there are digital communities. So these are organizations that build communities where people can access one another, or the actual members are the product, right? And so that's like Pinterest, Match, LinkedIn. But membership is not limited to digital natives, to the companies that are born and raised in Silicon Valley. Lots of big traditional companies are also focused on membership and leveraging technology. So an example there, American Express, the credit card company, has always said membership has its privileges. It's all about membership. And when I talked to the CEO of American Express Consumer, Josh Silverman, he said, the main thing at American Express is that we've always got our members back. And it's not the cheapest card for us as customers, and it's definitely not the best card for the merchants in terms of being the cheapest way of doing business. But for the consumers, for the members, it is the best value. And it's hard to put a price tag on somebody having your back and making it so you don't have to worry anymore. Membership has always come into play with nonprofits and professional associations. And, I have an example here, APPO. So APPO is really interesting. It's the Association of Professional Photo Organizers. So these are people that come into your house and take all of the digital files that you have in all different places, and your USB cards and all of these, different, thumb drives and on your hard drives and the physical pictures that you have from when you were a kid, and they organize them for you and make them usable. And, this is an association. It has several hundred members. Revenue is in the, high six figures to millions of dollars. They have an annual meeting where several hundred people come and spend 3 days learning about the business. It's run by one person. She owns it, right? She built it herself. She bootstrapped it. She owns it. And she's been able to do that through technology, right? She created an online community. She created online courses. She booked space at a hotel near her house and invited everybody to come and charged them a fee. And what's happened is she's created a lot of value just by herself. And what's especially interesting to me is that what's happening now that she has critical mass of all these photo organizers, all of the large photo companies want her advice. So they actually want her to provide focus groups. They want her to serve as an expert advisor to their companies. This is like Costco. This is Kodak. This is Shutterfly. These are big tech companies that are trying to learn because she owns the relationships with these very important people. So really interesting model, small nonprofit. Another place that membership is really happening is with very small companies. Right? I told you the example of Kepler's, my neighborhood bookstore. I told you the example of the nail salon. You don't have to be a big organization to do this. In fact, small organizations have an advantage, which is that you actually do know your members. If you're a large company like Netflix, you've never met most of your customers, so you have to rely on the data. You have the advantage of using both the data that you're able to collect and the real-world insights that you have from actually meeting and working face-to-face with your customers. And finally, actually I have two more. So one is not in my book, which is consumer products. So when I wrote the book was published last year. This was not really happening yet, this whole consumer products as a subscription and consumer product memberships. But now if you look, you can do replenishment models like Dollar Shave Club, where you get your razors delivered to your home every month. You can subscribe and save with Amazon so that they'll send you every week, every month, as often as you tell them, whatever product you're going to need on a regular basis. So that might be toothpaste. It might be pet food. We have a dog. Pet food is really heavy. So you can actually get that delivered. And because it's Amazon Prime, shipping is free. So that's a new way of rethinking consumer products and retail. The other big advance that's been happening in consumer products are all the subscription boxes. Does anybody here get a subscription box? A couple of people. So subscription boxes, there are over 9,000 different subscription boxes. These are about discovery. So there's Birchbox, which is about makeup. There's Pop Sugar, which is about makeup. There's Stitch Fix, which is they send you clothes every month that they think you're going to enjoy. There's Tackle Box, which is the little like flies that you use for fishing, and you get new tackle flies every month. There's Bark Box, which is doggy treats and doggy toys. There's a whole range of subscription boxes that are being sent to people's homes for discovery. It's fun, right? You open the box and you say, oh, these are new things that I wouldn't have known about or bought on my own. So this is really starting, this is a newer trend, but this is shaking up consumer products and retail. And all of the major retailers are starting to stew on this, and the consumer products companies are too. And, what's really interesting to note is that transformation, first it seems like, oh, these little companies are, nipping at my heels. It's not a big deal. But then before you know it, they've transformed the industry. So when you think about like Netflix and Blockbuster, Blockbuster's gone. Right? Blockbuster is totally gone. Amazon, when they first started, they were not seen as a threat to retailers because people said, oh, no. People will always want to come into stores and touch the things that they're buying before they buy it. Well, we know that that's not true. People go into the stores, they touch the things they want to buy, and then they order them on Amazon. So it's really changing the way people behave. This is about changing human behavior, giving them new options, that are in their best interest. And finally, I'm just going to talk briefly about loyalty programs because I hate them. The reason is loyalty programs, like, they have the big advantage. Like, they got to start the race before everybody else. They already have huge membership communities. And yet, what do they do to us, right? For the most part, they treat us pretty badly. Not all of them, but the vast majority of loyalty programs are really discount programs. They're not about trust and connection and feeling like the things that I talked about with Maslow. It's about a financial transaction, right? I fly 25,000 miles a year, I get to go to the front of the line. I fly 50,000 miles a year, I get free upgrades. I fly 100,000 miles a year, I get free tickets, right? So I fly a lot of miles. I travel all around the world and speak to business people like all of you. And so I'm on planes all the time. I have a lot of miles, and they tell me I have a lot of status, which is totally not true, because when I actually want something that is not part of the official program, nobody is able to help me. So, I went on the plane the other day. I have 3 kids, right? So 5 of us, my husband and I, and the 3 kids are going on the plane. They say, "Oh, Mrs. Baxter, we would like to put you in first class." And I said, I don't really want to be in first class. I want all 5 of us to sit together. "Oh, we're very sorry. We're not going to be able to do that for you." So your husband is in row 6, and your older daughter is in row 14, and your middle daughter is in row 27 in seat B, and your son is actually hanging on to the tail of the plane because he looked very strong. We thought he could handle that. And I say to them, "Look, I'm not very tall. I don't need the legroom. I'm not a big drinker. I don't need the booze. All I need is to be with my family." And somehow they can't do that. They're not recognizing me as an individual and taking care of my needs. I certainly don't feel like they've got my back. And so for me, while this is the gateway to membership, loyalty programs are the gateway to membership, a lot of organizations are sort of sitting on their crown jewels and not doing anything with it. They're not really getting to know their members. They're not really asking what they want. A nice example of somebody who's doing some interesting things is Caesars Entertainment. They're the big hospitality company. Sadly, they recently went through bankruptcy for reasons not related to their membership. But what's interesting is, they own all of these huge properties in Las Vegas and Atlantic City and most beautiful resorts and so on, worth billions of dollars. Their most valuable asset when they were filing for bankruptcy, the single most valuable asset, was the database of their members, the deep understanding that they have about the people who gamble and vacation with them. And the reason that they're so successful is they've really focused on the needs of each individual member. Every frontline employee has the ability to provide something special for their members. So let's say that you and your spouse love Celine Dion. They might say to you, "You know what? Celine is getting warmed up downstairs. Why don't I take you? You can watch her warm up, and maybe if she has a minute, I'm not sure if she will, she might come over and say hi." Well, what's that worth, right? That's worth everything. That is the whole vacation. It's not something that everybody wants. Not everybody likes Celine Dion. But for the people who love her, this is a life-changing, memorable moment. So that's really what membership is about, is recognizing what's unique about your members, anticipating things that are going to delight them, and staying in front of them, continuing to evolve the offering to meet their needs and delight them. So at this point, I want to just do something a little bit different. I'm going to talk to you briefly about what is at the heart of the membership economy, which is that forever transaction that I've alluded to. It's this idea that your members say to you, "You know what? I'm no longer a consumer. I'm a member." And that means that I am not shopping around for alternatives. I'm not looking for something better. I'm not looking to see if maybe I can get a slightly lower price down the street. I'm connected to you because you take care of my needs. I know that if something new comes up that's going to be useful for me, you're going to let me know. I know you're not going to take advantage of me in terms of pricing. I may not get the lowest price, and that's okay, because I trust you, and I know it's fair, and I know you need to make a living, and in exchange, you're going to give me great value. That's the promise that justifies the forever transaction. So at this point, what I want to do is I'm going to give you about 2 to 3 minutes to turn to the person sitting next to you, and it's fine/great if they don't work at the same company. And I want you to just share what you think is that forever promise that's at the heart of your relationship with your customers. What is it that they really want from you? Just like if I said, I don't buy a car because I want a car. I buy a car because I need transportation, and really it's because I need to get where I need to go so that I can live a full life, right? So maybe just take a moment and think about, what does that forever transaction mean in your organization? I'll give you 2 to 3 minutes. Go ahead. Okay, now might be a good time to swap if you haven't both had a chance to share. Okay, I'm going to bring you back together now. I love all the enthusiasm, and, frankly, the best part of working with organizations is the moment when the ideas become reality. So I appreciate all of you being game to jump in and talk to each other. And also, I just have to say, this is the best audience for going from very high decibel of talking and engagement down to really quiet, really fast. So thank you very much for that. We'll keep going. Was that useful for everybody? Just nod if it was. I think it's good to just start to focus on what's in the interest of your members and what's that long-term value proposition. Because a lot of times competition doesn't come from your competitors. It comes from left field. So, one of the biggest threats right now for financial services firms is Facebook, because Facebook has created Facebook Messenger. Facebook Messenger is run by the guy who used to run PayPal, which is a payments company. They're trying to figure out, and he also was an advisor to a peer-to-peer payments company, right? So you kind of follow the dots here, right? So this is Facebook. This is Messenger, which is kind of like texting. But the guy who's running it was the head of PayPal and was on a board of a peer-to-peer payments company. So where do you think they're going, right? They're exploring peer-to-peer payments. They're exploring payments by text, right? So if I was a financial services firm, if I was American Express, I would be very worried about Facebook. Probably more worried than I'd be about another credit card company or a bank. So competition's coming from everywhere. And the only way that you can really defend yourself against that competition is by knowing what the forever transaction is. Because that gives you the advantage, right? You know what your members really want. You understand the bigger picture. And so you don't have to be limited by today's products and services. You can keep evolving your offering to continue to solve their needs. And as long as you do that, and they stay in a member relationship with you where they're not looking for alternatives, it's very, very hard for competitors to break in. So just something to think about, this concept of the forever transaction. If you're wondering, well, how do we start to take that forever transaction and implement it into our business models? Here are some tools that might be useful. There's 7 steps to moving to a forever transaction, 7 steps of the membership economy. And I'm going to walk you through them so that you can hopefully get some ideas. Because the truth is, if you walk out of here without any practical ideas, then I have failed with my job. My mission here, the reason that you're here, is not necessarily to sit and listen to somebody, not necessarily to enjoy the really comfortable seats of this beautiful auditorium, but it's to learn something that you can apply to be more successful in your business, right? It's to learn and to be inspired. So hopefully that's what we're doing. And hopefully these are going to be some of the tools that you'll be able to apply when you get back to your business later today or tomorrow. So I'm going to start at the top. First one is organization. I'm going to go through all of these, and then I'm going to circle back and focus on a couple of them in a little bit more depth. So the first one is organization. That's about the people on your team, what their roles are, and what the metrics are. So do you measure retention and managing churn? That is, how long do people stay with you? Are you focused on customer lifetime value? Or are you focused on the number of transactions that you've had this quarter? Right? The different metrics, people do what they're rewarded for. What gets measured is what matters. So thinking about the roles, the organizational structure, what you call people, as well as the metrics, is kind of the first thing to be thinking about. The second thing to think about is your funnel. Most organizations are familiar with this idea that you have an acquisition funnel. And at the top of the funnel, that's everybody that could possibly be a customer. And you want to make them aware of you. Then you want them to try your organization, and then you want them to transact. And for most organizations, that's it. That's why they call it a funnel, right? It just goes boom, and then it's over. The transaction's the finish line. In the membership economy, transaction's the starting line, because that's where you actually get permission to start talking to your customer, and you get to learn about them, and you get to ask them questions and improve your services. And that's where they're going to expect you to really be delivering. That's where your big investment should go. Pricing. I have to always talk about pricing. I spend a lot of time working with companies. I worked with SurveyMonkey, helping them go from having a single tier of pricing to having multiple levels of pricing. I've worked with a lot of companies on simplifying their pricing. At the heart of pricing, when you think about it, what you want to do is make it easy for the buyers to buy. Now, a lot of organizations make it easy for the sellers to sell, right? You say, well, gosh, if we have a fixed price and we make it easy for them to buy, we have risk that some of them might cost us more than others. And we don't want that, because maybe we'll lose money. We don't know what the future holds. So we're going to give all kinds of complicated algorithms for how to figure out what to buy. So like when I buy an airline ticket, I have no idea why one week it's $300 and the next week it's $600 and the next week it's $280 to go to the same place. When I try to figure out my phone system and what I'm paying for the 5 digital, the 5 mobile phones that we have, and the 2 iPads, and the, cable, and all the other things that we pay for, it's very hard to look at my bill and understand how the costs lead to my final total. They're making it hard for me to buy. I don't really understand what I'm doing. And when it's hard for the buyer to buy, they don't trust you, right? When I see a bill that I don't understand, my first thought is they're trying to trick me. So make it easy for your buyers to buy. You also want to think about what you can give away for free. Virtually every company in Silicon Valley has a freemium model. And what that means is there are some things that you can get for free forever. And then there are other things that you pay for forever. Free plus premium is freemium. And there's also free trial. So the difference between a freemium model and a free trial is that a free trial is done for the purpose of showing somebody how good your services are. It's like giving them a taste of the best thing you know how to create, a bite of filet mignon, right? Freemium is like all the hamburger you can eat, right? It's not necessarily the best thing. It's not perfect, but it's unlimited and forever. So a lot of organizations make the mistake of thinking that if I give them hamburger forever, they're going to want to buy my filet mignon. And that is not how it works, right? If you give somebody hamburger forever, they think you're McDonald's. And they're not going to take their spouse there for their anniversary celebration, right? They're not going to trust that you can do that. You have to give them a taste of that so that they know that you can do it. Freemium, on the other hand, is really useful if you want to change long-term behavior. So, for example, they understand that they could get, let's say, news articles digitally or through paper, but they get a newspaper, and you want them to start going digital, right? So you say, okay, the first 10, every month you can get 10 articles for free. So you're changing their behavior. Instead of reading the paper, they're reading, on their tablet device. And so you change their behavior, and when they really make it a habit and they go beyond 10 articles a month, you start charging them because you've changed their behavior. That's one reason for freemium. A second reason for freemium is if there's a network effect, which means that each new person that joins creates more value for the people who are there, right? This is like why LinkedIn is free for most people. Most people are members, but most of us don't pay for it. But if you're a recruiter or a salesperson or you're looking for a job and there's nobody else at LinkedIn, you don't really want to pay because there's no value if there's nobody there. And then the third reason that you might try freemium is if the people that are getting your service for free, even if it's a very light service, know people who would pay and reach out to them. So for example, if I have a SurveyMonkey account and I send a survey to all the people in my book club asking them what book do we want to read this month, and one of them is a professional market researcher, and she decides that she wants to get this cool survey app for her company, and she wants to pay for the enterprise level solution, which is $800 a year, I have just become the marketing channel that brought in an $800 customer, right? So that's really valuable. I am a valuable marketing channel. It is worth giving me some free stuff to get me to reach out to my friends. So think about that when you think about what you could give your members. If you go back to your Forever Promise and you say, what can I give for free? Because the costs of delivering content, for example, are pretty much zero. If you have an event and you invite a few more people, you can create a webinar, a digital experience, lots of things you can do for free that create value and bring people into your community. Another thing to think about is onboarding, which is, what do you do in the first seconds after somebody makes a transaction, right? I said the transaction is the starting line. So what do you do after they get to the starting line, right? What do you do once they say, I'm going to join? Because they're already thinking about canceling. I guarantee you, they're already thinking they're not going to be as good as they promised. It's not going to be good. I'm going to cancel. So you want them to have an amazing experience from the first moment that they join. And you want to keep that going through customer success on an ongoing basis, right? So a lot of organizations have customer support. That's fixing the problem you made, right? I call you and I say, you broke it. It's broken. It doesn't work. Nobody showed up. I'm not happy. I don't understand. That's what customer service is for. Customer success was for, can we help you have a better experience? We noticed that you're not using something. Is anything broken? Should we swing by and help you? What can we do to make your experience better? It's turning customer support on its head. And then finally, technology, right? So big companies say to me, Robbie, technology is really hard because we've been around a long time. We have all these legacy systems. It's hard to get into kind of the modern age. And small companies say, we're small, we don't have technology experts, we can't use it. Now, what I would say to you is that, number one, the costs of different kinds of technology, especially when they're delivered as a service, software as a service, are very, very low, and you don't have to maintain it. So you can actually buy it and use it even without being a tech expert. So what that means is that in large and small organizations, everybody should be tech literate. So I would assume that everybody in the room can read and write, right? But it doesn't mean that you're all professional writers. You can still write something, communicate with your colleagues, even write up a description of your product or communicate with your customers, even if you're not the person in the company that has writer in the title. It should be the same way with technology. Everybody in the company should be able to come up with requirements for technologies that would allow them to do their job better, and they should be able to, go out there and evaluate different options. So, think about that and think about technology as something that is always changing, that you're not investing in technology for the next 25 years, like technology infrastructure. You're investing in technology innovation. So you can keep adjusting and changing as you go along rather than investing in technology at a single point in time. So a little bit more about the organization, and a metaphor that might be useful for you is the human body. So these are human cells, and as you probably know, human cells regenerate constantly, right? And they regenerate at different speeds. So, your liver may take a couple of weeks to regenerate. Your skin might take a couple of days. Other parts of your body take months or even years. But every 5 to 7 years or so, you're a completely new person, except for your neurons. And even though all your cells are pretty much new, people still recognize you, right? Your family still says, that's Robbie. She still looks the same. That's the way it should be in your companies. Everything should be changing, even as the mission stays the same. So the products you sell, the services you provide, the people and the way those people work and the way they're measured, the processes you use to get business done, the kinds of technologies, the kinds of systems you use, all of those things can change and the mission can stay constant. That's what you want to be thinking about with your organization. In terms of onboarding, you want to roll out the welcome mat. You want to make the experience smooth from the time they buy until the time that they start using it. And you want to give them value immediately. Too often, organizations kind of throw the product over the wall, right? The product team makes something, and then they tell the sales and marketing team, here, go sell this. And then the marketing and sales team says, well, wait, the customers that I deal with, they don't want this. Or this isn't very good. How come you didn't ask me in advance what it was that our customers needed so that we could have a smooth transition? And instead what happens is often the customer, I just heard a story yesterday where they were saying, we are having lots of people buy our new product, but they don't use it after the first time, right? And if you're relying on a forever transaction and you're relying on a subscription model and people aren't using your product after the first time they try it, you have a big problem. So you really want to have this integrated onboarding experience that takes into account the expertise, not just of the people that do the delivery, not just the people who create the products, but also sales and marketing. Everybody should be working together to create that experience. I'm sorry, there's the picture. That's really what you want to avoid. You do not want to be throwing grenades over the wall and hoping that your sales team can deal with it. The last thing I wanted to talk about is customer success. So customer success is actually a job title in Silicon Valley, and it's actually one of the hottest job titles. Like if you want to get a job in Silicon Valley, say you're a customer success expert. Most of them are 25 years old, honestly, because they're the ones that are willing to kind of learn a new way of being, and the opportunities are immense. I spoke this year at a conference called Customer Success. The conference has been around for 3 years. The first year, it was 100 people. The second year, it was 600 people. When I spoke, it was supposed to be 1,200 people. They had 2,000 people show up. They had people sitting in the aisles. They had people sitting in the front. They had people in all the doorways, and they had screens out in the hall because so many people wanted to learn about customer success. Every organization in Silicon Valley now has a customer success team that is focused not on customer support, not this kind of distant-looking formal guy that's got a headset, but this friendly, approachable person who's in your corner. It's a real transformation of how you engage with your customers after they buy your products. And in a lot of organizations, customer success is becoming the new center of the whole organization because they're the ones that are closest to the people that are actually using the products and services. One other idea that I wanted to share with you is this concept of a super user. So a super user is somebody who's not just a good customer. So it's not just somebody who buys your products, uses them in the way that they're supposed to use them, and most importantly, pays you on time, but they're actually somebody who spends their own resources, their own money, and their own time to improve the condition of your organization. So these are the people that make referrals. These are the people that participate in user groups and user forums and educate new customers. These are people who give you feedback. And sometimes the feedback's not what you want to hear, but it's always a gift. It's always something that is designed to make your company and your experiences better. And these super users, not everybody can be a super user, but even among the people that are prone toward this kind of connected, engaged way of being with their companies that they love, they have a lot of other organizations competing for their time and attention. So it's really important to think about who your super users are and how you can bring them closer to you and how you can create more of them. So here's a couple of examples. This is my sister. She and I look the same from the front, but we don't look the same from the back. She's a CrossFitter. Is anybody here a member of CrossFit, Church of the Holy CrossFit? There's some nods. People know what I'm talking about. It's a gym program. It's very bare bones. It's very hard. You go 3 times a week. You pay a lot of money for the privilege of working out in a warehouse. And you're expected to show up. You're expected to stay until everybody finishes. It's very much a community. If you don't show up, people call you. And my sister's a member. She loves it. Not only is she a member, she writes a blog on CrossFitting using a pseudonym. called View from the Back of the Pack. She doesn't get paid for that. Nobody even knows it's her. But she does it because she cares about the other CrossFitters. She also calls people if they don't show up and offers to have them work out at her house. She has equipment and she puts it out in her driveway. She calls it CrossFit Driveway. They open CrossFit Driveway when the gym's closed. She and her husband host it all day. And she gives feedback to the CrossFit organization, telling them things that she likes, things that she thinks could be better, especially for a person like her who's not like a total jock, but somebody who's really just trying to stay healthy. And what's interesting to note is she doesn't have a lot of free time. She works full-time as a psychologist. She has 2 kids, little kids. She's busy, but she makes time for CrossFit because it's so meaningful to her. CrossFit is really at the heart of her community and the way that she lives her life, helping her achieve her full potential. You might say that's good, but that's a consumer thing. We work with companies. I would say behind every B in B2B, there's a C, right? There's a consumer, and really that's an H, which is a human being. And we all have those same needs. We want to be recognized. We want to be admired. We want to belong. We want to reach our full potential. Organizations that can do that, even in the B2B environment, are going to win, right? We spend a lot of time at work. And so if we can feel friendship and connection at work, we're going to like those products and we're going to want them. Salesforce is amazing at this. Salesforce is, the software as a service company. They're based right near where I live. They have a group called the MVPs, the most valuable players. And these are the people in their community that go beyond just participating in forums, paying regularly for the products and services, and so on. These are people who help other people onboard. They refer new members in. They participate in online forums. They speak at events. When Salesforce has a regional event, they'll come speak. They'll be on a panel. They'll be referenceable customers. They'll talk to other prospects. And they give feedback. They go to focus groups. They answer surveys. And you know what the prize is for being designated a Salesforce MVP? You get to go to more events and speak at larger events. You get to talk to more senior people in the company, and you get some free shoes. Now, you still have to pay the full price for the really expensive software, but people don't care because Salesforce is their home. It's their professional community. And they put MVP on the top of their resume. It's the most important signaling factor that they are successful. More important than the company where they work. So they feel greater affinity to Salesforce than they do in many cases to the companies where they are employed. And in fact, every year there's an event in San Francisco called Dreamforce, which is for all the people that use Salesforce to come together and, mingle, learn best practices. Last couple of years, so many thousands of people have come that the city of San Francisco couldn't house them all. And they had to bring cruise ships into the harbor so that people would have a place to sleep. That's how popular and important Salesforce is in the lives of these business people. So just something to think about, who are your super users and what is it about them that makes them valuable to you? And what is it about them that makes them inclined to engage with you in this kind of way? So there are 5, when I work with companies, there are really 5 points where companies run into trouble in the membership economy. They run into trouble when they're starting out, going from an idea to actually creating a business, because it's hard to create a community or connection or an ongoing experience from a standing start. Second reason that companies often struggle is when they're moving from being like a very traditional analog business to being a digital business, right? So like Weight Watchers, they moved, and what they found was that people engage differently online, and different kinds of people like to do their weight loss privately and through a digital system rather than going in for the meetings for which they're so famous. A third way that companies struggle is when they're just minding in their own business as usual, and they get disrupted by a new entrant that they weren't expecting. A fourth example is when an organization is going from a startup where everybody is so committed. When you start a new company, and I know some of you are entrepreneurs in the room, you work around the clock. You don't care, if you don't sleep. Everybody that's on your team is completely bought in. Everybody's working, long hours, not necessarily the most efficient ways, but doing it to get the job done. And moving from that to having like a more process-driven, organized, sustainable business can be very disruptive. And a lot of times what happens is people leave, right? Because the entrepreneurial people want to go to another entrepreneurial company. And also creating those processes slows growth, right? Because you have to pause and put the systems in place. And then the last thing that happens is going from a transactional business to a subscription business. So both Adobe and Intuit have done that in the last year with pretty good results. One, Intuit did it gradually by offering software in a box and software as a service at the same time, whereas Adobe just said, on this date, we are only supporting our subscription model, and if you have the disks and you have a problem, you may no longer call us. They lost some customers right away, but they had analyzed the potential risk, and they actually made that transition successfully. And I'm happy to talk more about that if anybody's interested. But what I wanted to focus on, since we have limited time, is that third category, the disruptors. And I want to share a couple of examples because, as I said earlier, disruption doesn't come from your nearest competitor who looks just like you but is a little bit ahead of you or a little bit behind you. It comes from a place that you never would have thought to look. And here's a couple of examples. So this is the Amazon River, and I choose to show you that instead of the logo because I want us to remember what Amazon's trying to do. They are trying to become the source of all life for all people. They want us to buy everything from them. And they were willing to lose money on, a lot of their initiatives. They've done a lot of experiments. First they were just selling books. Then they were selling everything. Then they said, well, there's actually some things we can't sell, so we're going to support retailers through a platform so that the people who sell stuff that we can't possibly sell can sell everything. That kind of long tail approach. Then they said, we want people to use our digital products. We want to actually change their behavior. So they gave away access to their digital products through Amazon Prime, which is their membership, their community for their most active customers. And so they've evolved what they've done. They've also tried things that haven't worked as well. They tried Woot, which is a deal of the day site that has a very strong and active community around it. They've tried forums where people can talk about any of the products and services that are available on Amazon. They've been really successful with their opinions community. So how many of you have ever written a review of a product at Amazon? If you haven't, write a review from my book, Membership Economy. Those reviews really, really matter. And Amazon created a community of people who write reviews. They call it Amazon Vine, and it's a community within a community. So they've been very innovative, and they've disrupted so many industries, right? They disrupted the whole book industry, right, which is completely falling apart, the whole publishing world. They disrupted book retailers. They disrupted retail in general. They've come between consumer products companies and the consumers, further disintermediating them. They've disrupted music, and they've disrupted video. They've disrupted some of the disruptors, right? Spotify and Apple and Netflix are all very scared of what Amazon's doing. So really interesting to think about disruption and the number of different industries that Amazon has and continues to disrupt. Another example, as I mentioned earlier, is Dollar Shave Club. So Dollar Shave Club, very simple model, right? They take a box, they make it look really pretty, they put your razors and your disposable razors in there, and they send it to you on a schedule that you choose, right? Very simple, right? Doesn't seem threatening at all. Gillette, one of the biggest companies in the world, tried to stop them. They came up with their own model. They failed, right? So this little kind of online entrepreneur beat Gillette at their own game. And recently, in the last couple of months, Dollar Shave Club was acquired by Unilever, one of the very largest of the consumer products companies, for $1 billion, right? So this little disruptive company has been around less than 5 years, disrupted an entire industry, and was purchased at an outrageous price, not necessarily because they wanted the shaving business, but because they wanted the expertise and the innovative ideas and the new way of looking at things. 3 questions that I'd love for you to think about over the next couple of days. The first one is, to really focus in on that forever transaction, the stuff that we were talking about earlier, and come up with what that means in your organization. The second thing is to think about it from your members' perspective. What could this mean for them? And then finally, you want to think about what would a forever transaction do for our members. So these are 3 things that you might want to think about when you go back and you're with your team. If we had all day, we would sit down and we would go through these questions and come up with ideas, brainstorm, really get into the shoes of what it feels like to have members, what it feels like to have a forever transaction, what the value is for the members themselves. So what does this mean for all of you? I'm coming here from Silicon Valley, very different kind of place, not as much history, not as much tradition. I grew up there, and, now that I've lived there my whole life, I am like the elder statesman of Menlo Park. Like, I've been there longer than anybody else. Most of the people that live in my town have been there, for just a few years. People are always coming and going. It's a very different kind of environment. And yet, I think there are some really interesting implications that are coming. Number one, people are disruptive. People don't see hierarchies. They don't wait their turn. If they see a need that hasn't been met, they can go out and get money to try something new. And they're not expected to be successful immediately. They're given a long runway. So what does that mean if you're running a business here and you have these competitors who have resources and who are innovating really quickly, going after, basically cherry picking the best parts of your business? What it means is, number one, that you should be anticipating this kind of disruption in your business. This woman in my book club, her dad is the founder of Intel, Andy Grove, and he wrote this book, which we all read in our book club, called Only the Paranoid Survive, right? So be a little paranoid, right? You want to think about what could happen. How could we be disrupted? And not only, historically, to disrupt you, they actually had to physically get people into Latin America, have the relationships, build trust, the old-fashioned way. Now they can just kind of parachute in with their digital offerings. So it's a lot cheaper to go global, right? Netflix went global, it went to 25 countries at once. They can do that, right? And so you really want to be thinking about what that might mean for your own business. So the last thing I want to do is give you a chance to get real, right? So if you read English, and I am so grateful for everybody here for the amount of English that has been spoken to me. I wish I spoke Spanish. I need to learn to speak Spanish. I really appreciate it. But for those of you who speak English, it's Research, Experiment, Adjust, Launch, and it stands for REAL. Get real. So, we're sitting in this cool room. We're thinking big ideas. We're being innovative. But then you're going to go back to your desk and you're going to have a pile of messages and things that have gone wrong and things that you need to take care of. Business as usual. Right now, we're out of business as usual, and business is unusual. And so at this point, I want you to think about one place that you could research where you could build a stronger relationship with your members. One thing that I talked about today that you say, I would try that. And then experiment. Just do it in a small way. Do it in a manual way. Don't invest a lot of money or resources. Just try it. That's what they do in Silicon Valley. If it doesn't work, adjust. Like, don't worry about it. You don't need to go away for 5 years and then come back with, jazz hands. Ta-da! We have the answer. It's much better to tinker, to keep adjusting and trying until you get something that you like, and then you launch. So, pick one thing, and in the next 30 days, give it a try. And, at Netflix, one thing that I always loved was that people were rewarded for trying something that didn't work because it was one thing that they could cross off of their lists. So you could try as many things as you wanted, no matter how junior you were, as long as they were kind of within certain parameters that fit with the Netflix brand. So, try something in the next 30 days. If it doesn't work, that's okay. And if it does work or doesn't work, please tell me, because I'd love to hear about your experiments. Leaving you with one big idea. And this is really at the heart of the membership economy, which is you have to love your members and their mission more than you love your products, the processes you use, or even the people who deliver on those processes. And if you do that, if you keep your focus on the members and their mission, everything else will fall into place. So we've only really scratched the surface today. We're going to have some time for discussion and for questions, and I hope you ask a lot of questions. But if you don't get a chance to get your questions answered, please feel free to reach out to me. You can get the abstract of the book from Get Abstract, or you can read the whole book if you're so interested. Easy to get. And I look forward to getting to know all of you, and hopefully to many more visits to work and engage here in Colombia. With that, I'd like to invite Alvaro Gonzalez, the Vice President of Marketing, to come and join me on the stage. We're going to have a little discussion, and then we're going to open it up to have a broader discussion with all of you. Thank you very much.
Muy buenos días, muchas gracias. Un saludo muy especial a todos nuestros clientes, proveedores, a todas las agremiaciones, instituciones, periodismo de contenido que encontramos allí, a la doctora María Elena Obando, presidente del grupo logístico de Coordinadora, quien hace posible que estemos aquí en este evento. Coordinadora se esmera por hacer servicios nuevos para que nuestros clientes crezcan. Y el de trasladar esta información, el trasladar el conocimiento para nosotros es fundamental y nos encanta hacerlo. Así que disfruten mucho de esta charla y sobre todo de lo que viene. Yo quiero invitar a la doctora Robin para que por favor se tome asiento. Yo quiero primero darle las gracias por tomarse el tiempo de venir a Colombia y estar con nosotros. Segundo, porque es una persona que tiene mucho interés en nuestro país y porque realmente ve un potencial supremamente grande en Colombia. Ella es una persona que ha venido en una trayectoria que ustedes ya bien conocen y que creo que tiene muchísimo que ofrecernos ahora, Rob. Uno cuando empieza a hablar de estos temas se vuelve muy difícil para empresas más tradicionales. Nosotros, cuando hablamos de membresías y no de clientes, que es la gran diferencia que estamos viendo hoy, encontramos una situación difícil de montar, difícil de manejar. En su carrera tenemos cosas que hemos seguido y que hemos visto, como el tema de la innovación. Yo no diría, tal vez la innovación, Robbie, será la forma de llegar, pero entendamos que la innovación no acaba de llegar. La innovación existe hace mucho tiempo. Y es una palabra que no solamente no es nueva, sino que adicionalmente nosotros la aplicamos en todas las empresas. ¿Cuál es la gran diferencia, Robbie, entre la innovación tradicional que nosotros hacemos, que ejecutamos, porque se hacen proyectos, se ejecutan proyectos? ¿Y cuál es esa gran diferencia? ¿Qué nos puedes dejar a nosotros aquí en Colombia para que esa innovación, la nueva innovación, sea algo diferente? ¿Qué es lo que se está usando en el mundo para que lleguemos a lograr estos temas de avanzada en la innovación?
Yeah, so it's a great question, Alvaro, because you're right. Innovation has changed, and companies that historically have been thought of as innovative are no longer seen that way, even though they use the same processes. The big differences are that innovation used to be like a 5-year plan, right? You'd have an idea, you'd go away, and then you'd build something. And then you'd come back and you'd say, this is our innovation. And now innovation can happen much more rapidly because technology enables us to test and try things and adjust. And also the customer they understand that when you innovate and do it rapidly, you might make mistakes. And if you show them that you're making mistakes and you're fixing them and you're trying and you're growing, they're going to be much more patient. So there's, to summarize, number one, innovation's happening much more quickly, in great part because the technology enables a more rapid approach. And the second thing is that consumers and customers expect you to be moving more rapidly, and they're willing to accept the mistakes. They'd rather see you try something and have it not quite work, like what Amazon did, than to see you not try and then come out with something 5 years later without really getting any feedback from them. So it's a much more iterative and agile approach to innovation.
Muy bien. Como este tema es tan profundo, para nosotros igualmente instaurarlo en nuestras empresas es mucho más difícil, sobre todo quienes son empresas mucho más tradicionales. Yo quisiera que tocáramos un tema y empezáramos a abrir un poco las preguntas, porque hablábamos abajo y hay una serie de preguntas que quedan ahí en el aire. Ojalá, Robbie, pudiéramos tener la oportunidad de tenerte mucho más rato, mucho más tiempo, pero yo quisiera que esas personas que han estado inquietas con este tema de la innovación, aprovechemos este momento con Robbie y abramos un poco la discusión y ya vamos manejando ese conversatorio de tal manera que vamos llegando. Vamos a ver quién se anima entonces con esa primera pregunta. Micrófono, sí. El señor allí en la segunda fila.
Thank you for asking the first question.
Primero, muchas gracias a Coordinadora y a Andrés Trujillo por invitarnos y pues la información ha sido de mucho valor. Yo quería hacer una pregunta. Todas las hemos venido trabajando con el marketing mix de las P's durante mucho tiempo, pero eso uno ya ve como que es un concepto obsoleto. ¿Cómo se relaciona este tema de las marketing mix, donde tenía play, people, place, product, promotion, todo este cuento con esto? ¿Cómo debe evolucionar ese concepto?
Yeah. So just to clarify the question, you're talking about kind of what is changing for marketing, especially, is that right?
Marketing mix should evolve because we have been using the P's, product, promotion, place, all of that for several years. Now, is there a new concept, like instead of like working on products, we should work on relationships, and because that concept seems quite old.
Yeah, I agree with you. So I agree with you. I think that the 4 Ps is old because it's fixed in time. It's like you do each thing and then you're done. And it needs to be more iterative. The other thing that I would say now is that, that whole model focuses on, basically focuses on the products. I mean, that's really what it's about. It's a product-centric approach to business. And I think it needs to be a customer-centric approach to business, where the member is at the center. And that actually changes the role of the marketer quite a bit. Less marketing campaigns and more market research and engagement. Does that answer your question?
Contesta tu pregunta.
Sí, no, bien.
Yo quisiera agregar algo, y es que 4P, 5 o 6P, Robbie, pero entonces quiere decir que en la medida en que estemos avanzando en el tema de las membresías, de que dejemos de considerar en nuestras compañías los clientes como clientes y más como miembros de esa comunidad, pero para hacerlo no puede ser teórico, tenemos que ser y parecer serlo, entonces habrá otra P que trabajar, porque el cliente hoy lo trabajamos en el tema de la retención de una manera muy cortoplacista, digámoslo así. Entonces manejamos esquemas de promedios de clientes, de crecimientos de clientes mensuales en el corto plazo, en el año o en periodos específicos del año, pero y adicionalmente le entregamos servicio, le entregamos producto y obviamente una satisfacción de acuerdo a su tarifa, pero es más allá, esto es más allá, o sea, eso todavía es cliente. ¿Cómo llegamos a que sea más miembro? ¿Cuál es la otra P? ¿Qué es lo que nos hace falta para llegar allá a quienes nos da más duro este proceso?
Okay, so the other P is purpose, and it's what the purpose is of your customers, of your members. I think you're absolutely right. Starting by saying they're members, not customers, is a huge mind shift, because at the heart, membership is about a mindset. Subscription is a pricing decision. That's not about how you feel about your members. I think what you're doing here with this knowledge circle is a step towards membership, right? Because it's not so much about the products, the specific, in your case, logistics products, although they're excellent. It's about helping your customers to be more successful, whatever that means. And so thinking about that, bringing them together, giving them opportunities, that's what membership's all about.
Muy bien, ¿alguna otra pregunta? Adelante.
Robbie, muchas gracias. Nos has dado una charla muy, muy interesante. Magnífico. Una experiencia y unos conocimientos extraordinarios de un gran valor. Y pienso para nosotros, los presentes, ha sido realmente una suerte y un privilegio haber estado aquí. Ahí me ha sorprendido, había leído algo sobre ti, pero la verdad es que transmites toda esa experiencia y conocimientos de una manera tan grata y tan interesante que es importante. Yo trabajo para una universidad y entiendo que tú asesoras también una de las universidades más tradicionales y más innovadoras de los Estados Unidos, Stanford University, y me pregunto, ¿cómo haces tú o cómo nos recomiendas a nuestra universidad y cómo hace Stanford University para enseñarles estas innovaciones y todo esto de la economía, de la fidelización y de la membresía? Es importante y me gustaría saber cómo hacen ellos, porque creo que es algo que debemos transmitirle a los jóvenes estudiantes de ahora. Gracias.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for your very kind words and for your hospitality, hosting us in your beautiful new auditorium. And it's been a real honor to get to meet you and to be here. When I think about universities, there's a couple of things that come up with membership. So the first thing is that today, students can get access to the best courses in the world through, these what do you call them, massive online courses, right? You can get access to the learning, the education, the content, virtually for free. I spoke last year to a group of operations professors of all of the largest business schools in the United States. And one of the things that they were very concerned about is they said, look, the best operations classes are now available online for free. So what do we do? And here's what I think is true. I think that the things that a university, a physical university, can do that nobody else can do is create relationships and respond to the needs of the individuals. Those are the two things. So the first one, creating relationships. Maybe the most valuable thing for me about having gone to Stanford is the people that I met there. Not just because of cronyism or, they helped me out or what have you, but the conversations in the classroom and the conversations that I've been able to have with these people for many years. I've been out of school now for 20 years. And when I have a question about finance, I can call a friend who's a partner at Goldman Sachs. When I have a question about consumer products, my friend, runs Nabisco. Those kinds of relationships are incredibly valuable. And the ability in the university to have those kinds of conversations and relationships, access to my professors as advisors and mentors to me is tremendously valuable. So when I think about what higher education is going to look like in the next, let's say, 5 years, I think that a lot of the value is going to be in those conversations and also in the higher level, more customized learning that can't be taught in a massive course. I hope that answers your question at least a little bit.
Muy bien. Tenemos para que miren la primera fila otra pregunta. El grupo logística, por favor. ¿O lo tienen allá? ¿Tienen el micrófono?
Robbie.
Yes.
Yo también te doy gracias porque sentí que nos entregaste algo con mucho cariño, como que de verdad nos entró y nos cuestionó en lo que estamos haciendo. Mi pregunta es la siguiente: yo trabajo para una empresa de ropa interior femenina y estamos en todo este proceso del marketing digital. Lo de la membresía nos lleva fuera de satisfacción también al e-commerce, o sea, ¿nos recomendarías primero crear esa membresía y esos grupos para después entrar a, como decimos nosotros, al carrito de compras?
Question is, you have this business, you're taking it online, and you're thinking about membership at the same time. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So Yeah, so the question is what to do first, because you have a lot of things on your plate. And what I think is the first thing, which is also, well, it's the easiest and the hardest thing at the same time, which is to create a culture of membership among your team, among your employees, so that they think about the women who are buying your products not just as customers who need to buy more underwear, or, I needed a pair of underwear so I bought them in a transaction, but as people who have aspirations. I want to feel comfortable. I want to look beautiful. I want to treat myself. Whatever the reason is that makes them loyal to your brand, you want all the people that work for you to be thinking about that. And then that carries over. So like you say, well, how do we think about the e-commerce experience? Well, you may decide that you want to do like a Stitch Fix model, where every month they get a surprise, they get something lovely in the mail, and they enjoy that as a way of discovery and a way of treating themselves. It may be the way you package it, right? Making it a beautiful box that makes, Victoria's Secret's been fantastic with that. It may be that you're learning from them about what's hard about shopping, right? And you make it easier for them to, get their measurements in so that they get things that fit really well the first time. Maybe it's about giving lots of customer support so that they can call you. And, because I think maybe it's a little bit uncomfortable sometimes for people to buy underwear. They're self-conscious. So maybe if they can call somebody, and maybe if there's, some kind of sales where they can have a face-to-face experience with a salesperson so that they can talk about it in a private way. Those are the kinds of things that you might be able to incorporate once you focus on it from the perspective of what do our members really want. Does that answer your question? You're welcome.
Muy bien, vamos a otra pregunta que tenemos por allí. Ya vamos a la otra fila.
Yeah.
Hola, Robbie.
Hi. Hello. Hola.
Si tuviéramos que tú pudieras elegir hoy 3 palabras con las que puedas describir cómo se debe sentir un cliente que es nuestro miembro, ¿qué deberíamos hacer para que esa persona, nuestro cliente, tenga esa experiencia y puedas elegir esas 3 palabras que describan cómo se siente ese cliente?
Okay, so that's a hard question. Only, my sister says, I didn't have time to give you a short answer, so I gave you a long answer. So 3 words makes it very hard, but I think I would say that the way that your customers should feel is first, confident. The second is known or recognized. And the third is appreciated or admired.
Tenemos otra pregunta, por favor.
Ahorita hablaste de que algunos venture capitals no tienen como prioridad la rentabilidad en el corto plazo, sino que lo están viendo como un proyecto a largo plazo. Esas empresas, pues, ¿cuánto puede ser considerado a largo plazo? ¿O ellos cómo miden su tiempo en esos modelos de negocio?
Question is, when venture capitalists are patient, how patient can they be, right? How long will they wait? And okay, so the first thing that I would say, so I live I told you, like in Menlo Park, like all my neighbors are venture investors, right? And I ran the venture capital club in business school, and I know all these guys at Kleiner and Menlo and Summit and all these different places. And, they're human beings, right? So they're not perfect. They don't do everything the same way. There's not a lot of consistency. What I would say is that for some companies, like, okay, so when Google got funding, they got a $75 million valuation almost out of the gate, which meant, for those of you that don't spend a lot of time in the venture world, it meant that they bought a share of Google, the company, assuming that the value of the whole company was $75 million. This was for 2 kids that were still in grad school, right? And so they had all that money, and there was the assumption this was already, a company that was very worthwhile. They had enough money, so they don't have to really prove their numbers until the next time they need money, right? So if you get a lot of money up front, you might have years and years of runway. If you're bold and kind of cocky as a CEO, and you tap into the ego of that venture investor, they give you a big valuation and a big amount of money. You might have 5 years before you have to do anything, especially if there's a lot of infrastructure. Like, Facebook had several years, I don't remember how many, 5, 6 years before they had to make any money, right? They were just going school to school. They went, first to Harvard, then I think to Columbia, and then, school to school, recruiting people to join. And it was only once they were really at scale that they even started to think about monetization. They really started to think about monetization when they hired Sheryl Sandberg as their CEO, that they only did like maybe five years ago, something like that. So there's actually, now there's also companies that are getting venture investment that are getting like dribs and drabs, right? I mean, $1 million, it might take allow you to have 6 months of runway. Like I'm working with one company right now, and I think they've raised $3 million. So they have a couple of, maybe 18 months to go before they have to start proving that they can make money. But even then, all they have to show is that this is what they always talk about, that we've cracked the nut, that we know that we have a value proposition that people will pay for and they stay. So if you can prove that, that's like that forever transaction. If you can prove the forever transaction, even if you're still losing money because you've invested so much and you haven't paid it back yet, you get another tranche of money where they say, okay, now get to profitability. So you might not have to get to profitability until your second major investment or maybe even your third major investment. Does that answer your question?
Okay. My question is a little bit related to his. When you talk about Silicon Valley. But how do you transfer that to Latin America? Because Latin America, getting the funding for a new company or getting the funding for a new idea is going to be a little bit harder. Do you think that a person has to get the idea and then go to the United States, or the barriers have gone down and now it's easier to do it down here in Latin America?
So that's a good question, and I know that in a lot of countries, the government supports venture investing, and so they actually make it a priority. And I think to some extent Colombia is thinking about this. I think that right now there's more money in the U.S. There is interest in Latin America. There are investments. There are organizations that invest. I know Endeavor Global, they invest in a much smaller way in Colombia. So there are organizations that are starting to do this. And I think it's a good model. Like whoever does it is probably going to make a lot of money and have a pretty good time doing it. So, if anybody out there has, $100 million US sitting around that they want to invest in venture, it's very exciting. And then that's when the entrepreneurs kind of come out of the woodwork. What I would say for people who are already, operating existing companies and don't have the luxury of money, I don't think that that's a non-starter. I think that there's still a lot of potential for growth and innovation. One of the bad things, the dark side that I see with Silicon Valley is that sometimes people get money and they don't know what to do with it. And they haven't run a business before, and they don't know how to serve customers, and they don't know how to manage expenses. And so they end up doing something that flames out. In venture capital land, if you are successful, 1 out of 10 investments, I think the number is 1 out of 7 investments, you're considered a top tier venture investor. That means that for every 7 companies that you pick that you think are big winners, 6 of them are going to fail. So, I think you have an advantage that you're real entrepreneurs and real executives that are running real businesses. And so in some ways you have an advantage. So what the advice would be is to focus on your advantages, which is your customers, your business. And so you can continually tinker rather than having to kind of come in with this new idea.
No podemos dejar pasar un tema que es bien importante, Robbie. Nos gusta mucho hablar del gratis, nos gusta mucho el 2x1, nos gustan mucho los descuentos. Y seguimos pensando en el cliente, obviamente. ¿Cómo manejas tú ese tema en las consultorías entre el freemium y el premium? De tal manera que eso, ¿qué es lo que el cliente está sintiendo? ¿Estoy sintiendo un gratis o realmente lo que estoy sintiendo es que soy miembro de una comunidad y que realmente me aprecian, me admiran y que soy parte de algo importante?
Yeah, okay, so that's a very good question. So you're asking about the role of free and how free makes your customer feel. And you brought up some other kinds of free, like you brought up 2-for-1s and discounts. And for me, one of the biggest mistakes that companies make with free, and frankly with discounts too, is that they are educating their customer on a new behavior. They're saying, wait for the discount, or this should be free. So if you think about what happened with Napster, for example, Napster was the peer-to-peer music company. So they had this model where they said, upload all of your songs, and then we can all share songs with each other. And what they forgot was that there were actual musical artists and publishing houses that owned that music. So I was sharing it with you. I was really stealing it. But what happened when, they fixed the legal issues, but the problem was that Napster taught consumers that music should be free. It was very hard to unteach them. For 10 years, people didn't want to pay for music. They wanted to get it for free, and it was a very hard challenge. And I think models like Spotify, Pandora, iTunes have somewhat bounced back, and artists are now getting paid for their music, but there's a lot less value, perceived value in the delivery of music. So actually offering free actually kind of deteriorated a profitable business. So that's bad. You don't want to teach your customers that they should expect something for free that has real value. On the other hand, with freemium, what you're really trying to do is change their habit. So if you're not trying to change a habit, if you're not relying on a network effect where the people in the community are able to help each other, and you don't think that your free members are going to bring in paid members, don't give anything away for free, right? I'm asking you to explore free and to think about what the possibilities are, but you might find that it doesn't make sense in your business model. With regard to free trial, I think the important thing there is you give free trial when the person doesn't understand the value, when they don't know what it feels like, right? So I joined a gym recently, a health club, and they wanted me to spend a lot of money to get to work with a trainer, where we work one-on-one, and I pay him a lot of money, and he tells me what to do. And, I'm not the kind of person that does that. I thought that was too expensive, and I don't need it. And the salesperson said, let me give you a free session. You can experience it. You might like it. And, of course, it's amazing. If you haven't tried it, it is much better than exercising by yourself. And so I signed up because she knew that I didn't know what it felt like. It was like giving me a taste of the best thing the gym had to offer to get me to buy it. Does that answer your question? Do you have more? You probably have more.
Sí, Robbie. Y algo más que a nosotros se nos vuelve difícil, y es que cuando uno logra hacer esa comunidad, esa membresía, ellos, en el caso particular tuyo del gimnasio, más que la prueba es cómo me quedo. Ese freemium me puede llevar a que venga todos los días, a la hora que quiera, desde que esté abierto el gimnasio, y pueda hacer en cualquiera de los elementos su ejercicio. Eso me compromete un poco más. O sea, la idea es que eso me lleve a que pues yo tengo como casi un compromiso, así esté pagando por él. Entonces se me vuelve esa membresía, y por eso tan exitoso todos estos nativos digitales en ese tema.
Yeah. So you have to, when you do freemium, you have to have a mind toward the future. You have to understand what role freemium is playing in your bigger model. So for example, Salesforce gives away a lot of, or better example, Marketo. So Marketo is a marketing software company, right? And so they help marketers manage their different campaigns, their digital campaigns. They offer a ton of content for marketers that they create that is really valuable. So they offer courses, they offer ebooks, and it's really valuable. And it's not about the Marketo software. It's really something totally different. Even if you don't use Marketo software, you get tremendous value from those things and being part of the Marketo community that gives you access to those things, right? So I can be a marketer, not use Marketo software, and be a member of the Marketo free community. Now, their hope is that over time, I feel a sense of connection and I, buy the software, but also that I understand who Marketo is, that I tell, like I'm a consultant, right? I don't need Marketo for myself, but if you hired me, I might say, you know what, Marketo would help you get closer to your customers. So they want me to be a referral source. And when they have their Marketing Nation conference, where they bring in some of the biggest marketers in the world to talk to people, and you don't have to be a member either. I mean, you don't have to use their product. You can be free. You connect with other people, and they talk to you about Marketo products. And so free fits into the model. What you don't want to do is give away your crown jewels. So Zoomerang, which is I don't think they exist anymore, but they were a survey company, and they gave away surveys for free unless you had like more than 30 questions or something. So like nobody has more than 30 questions. Like whatever it was, nobody needed the paid version, right? People who were even willing, who said, I'm using this for work. I can charge it to my company. I don't need to get it for free. They were saying, but I get this value for free, so I don't need to pay. That's a huge mistake. They gave away too much. And if you want, I can talk more about how you fix that once you've given away too much. But it's a very hard thing to do once you've made that mistake. So you really have to be thoughtful in advance when you're trying to figure out how free fits into your bigger model.
Veo la cara de los clientes y ellos no quieren que hablemos de eso por ahora, por los descuentos que hemos tenido con ellos. Pero sigamos, vamos a otra pregunta para que aprovechemos esta mañana.
Hola, Robbie. Aquí.
Oh, I see you in the back. I don't have my glasses on, so you're just like fuzzy beauty. Yeah.
Okay. Las startups tienen en su ADN la innovación y pues tienen la agilidad para innovar y para poner en el mercado soluciones para los clientes muy rápidamente. ¿Cómo podríamos nosotros en las grandes compañías y más tradicionales replicar esta facilidad, ya que para nosotros las grandes compañías el time to market es un problema hoy en día?
Yeah. So there's this question of how can you be fast and agile like a startup when you have a big company? And I think the issue, we were talking about this last night, is that if you're like, sometimes people compare startups to speedboats, and then they say that the companies are these big old cargo ships, and they say that disparagingly. But the truth is, if you have a speedboat, you have no cargo, you have no baggage. It doesn't matter if you make a really sharp turn because nobody's going to fall off the side and drown. If you're running a big company and you have thousands or millions of customers who depend on you, it's very hard to move rapidly. So the first thing that I want to say is I acknowledge that it's very hard. Sometimes your very success as a company can slow you down and prevent you from being innovative. With that being said, what I would suggest is that you do what Andy Grove said and you get paranoid and you say to yourself, okay, I'm thinking of the most innovative executive on our team, sort of a middle manager who's really creative and really ambitious. What if that person found an investor who had some money and got a really good technologist and said, let's go make money from the people we used to serve at the old company. Let's do what it is that those people really want that our company's never going to do. Let's just do it ourselves. And if you do that exercise, first of all, just as an exercise, even like in a conference room where everybody just pretends that they're in that situation, you'll get a lot of ideas of where the innovation should be. And then the second thing that you can do, if you really want to commit to it, is to create your own startup. So actually let that team go somewhere else, give them a very small budget, and see if they can build something. Those are the tactical things. The mindset, which is sometimes, like I said, earlier, is sometimes even harder, even though it doesn't cost as much or it doesn't, require technology or products or what have you. The really hard thing is that you have to teach your employees that it's okay to change what they're doing. It's okay to cannibalize old businesses. You might have a very successful, profitable product that's not really as good as what can be made today. And so you're reluctant to develop the new product because some people are too dumb to switch. And usually when you think about these people that are too dumb to switch, what it really is that they trust you too much to think that they need to be considering a switch. So they've become members. They're like, I trust this company. I'm sure I'm getting a good deal. And then one day they figure out that somebody else is providing a better service for a lower price, and they feel really violated. So culturally, you really want to allow new businesses to pop up and flourish, even if it creates a little bit of cannibalization.
Muy bien.
I'm here. Hi, Robin.
Hi.
I'm here. Thank you very much for being here. We do appreciate your presence here. I work for a medium company, and I have a question. This is the greatest idea, I think, about the membership thing. This is one of the greatest ideas. I have a question. We have a long path to run until we get there. But my question is, how would it how would it take care of our customers if they are not members yet? How would it take care of them so that they can get members of our company. Is it wise for us, like, to ask them 2 or 3 months later, like, how they're doing with their product? Or that's my question. How do we take care of their customers if they are not members yet?
That's a great question. The thing is, there's a lot of things, I've talked a lot about technology and systems and big ways that you can change what you're doing. But the most important thing is to change the mindset of your, especially frontline employees. So I work with a hospital system, so a healthcare system, and the metaphor that they use is we want to provide our patients with the experience of having a doctor in the family. So for those of you that might have a physician who's, your brother or your parent or your, good friend, that when you have a health issue, you call them and you say, hey, my arm's kind of bothering me. Can you take a look at it? Do you think I should go in? If I should go in, who's the best doctor? Who should I see? Oh, they don't want to see me. Can you get me in? And if you have a family member who's a doctor, you get that experience. And to the best of your ability, you want your employees to create that kind of experience for your customers. So yeah, absolutely. That means asking them for their feedback. It also means listening to them when they tell you about their problems. It also means using your common sense and your judgment to say, I think this person really needs something else that we're not providing. Maybe we should adjust. So while the processes and the systems most certainly should follow so that you can do this consistently, the good ideas are going to come from your frontline team and from the mindset.
Muy bien, vamos a hacer las 2 últimas preguntas porque ya se nos acaba el tiempo, aunque tenemos rector de la universidad aquí, pero se nos va acabando el tiempo y también Robbie tiene unos compromisos que realizar en el día de hoy. Vamos a hacer las 2 últimas preguntas, por favor, en logística las coordina.
Robbie, gracias. Te quería preguntar, yo trabajo para una empresa de servicio temporal. Nosotros suministramos empleados en misión. Además, tenemos legislación colombiana que pues no podemos superar esta prestación de servicio por un año consecutivo. Es decir, solamente podemos prestar el servicio un año. ¿Cómo generamos este tipo de fidelización o este tipo de transacción eterna teniendo en cuenta pues, estos antecedentes?
Yeah, so to clarify, you run a staffing firm, is that right? And you place people and they can stay for less than a year and then they come back to you, is that right? Yes? Okay, so in that model, the membership isn't with the employer who's temporary, it's with your organization. And, I don't know your business well enough to tell you what your forever promise is, but I would guess it has something to do with providing skilled professionals with a more flexible way to think about their career. And so the kind of value that you can provide to those people, both when they're in a placement, like a 9-month job, or when they're kind of on the beach looking for the next job, the value that you can provide them is helping them to think about their career, helping them to enjoy their free time when they have it, helping them to stay educated and current because, as I know, for not working in a large company, I don't just get professional development handed to me. I actually have to go find it. So you can provide that to your members. So I think there's actually a really fantastic opportunity for you to create a very, very strong community and a very strong promise to the people you serve.
Muy bien. Y una última pregunta.
Buenos días. Pues mi pregunta es... ¿qué consejo les darías a los jóvenes emprendedores de hoy que dependen mucho de un capital para surgir?
Yeah, so for young entrepreneurs, I think the biggest thing is that you can be really successful at a very young age and to think big, to think about what would make the world a better place. Sometimes it comes across as arrogant, but I think that one of the advantages of being young is that you see the problems that other people have accepted as intractable. So look for those problems and see, just say to yourself in the most common sense way possible, how would I fix this if I had the money and the resources? I would build this, like little kids even will tell you like, oh, well, I think we should have soda machines at the school. It would be so great. And they come up with ideas. And then to go and, give them a chance to write a business plan. Teach kids about business when they're young, so that they can be more entrepreneurial as they get older. The other thing is that when you're young, you need less money, often to innovate. You don't have a family to support. You have a lot of energy still. So, I think it's great to do it while you're young. But I would also say, you did not ask this, but since I have the mic, I'm just going to keep talking. I think that older people also can be really innovative, because those of us who have been around the block a few times, such as myself, we see things, we recognize the issues, and we have ideas, and we can be very successful entrepreneurs. And the most fast-growing group of business owners in the U.S. is people over 50, of new business owners. Because they're having second careers, because they're applying what they've learned to new businesses, and because in many cases, once your kids are out of the house, you have a little more flexibility about, what you need to earn to maintain your expenses. So, for those of you, and I don't think there's very many, but those of you who are as old as me that are in the room, you might want to think about that as well. What kind of innovation might you want to see in the world?
Que hemos llegado ya al final. Nos hace una invitación muy clara, Robbie. Yo pienso que en el tema de la innovación nosotros tenemos que cambiar al interior la forma como lo hacemos. Embudamos las ideas, generamos muchas ideas y las embudamos, le damos muerte a esas ideas mucho antes de que puedan llegar a su final, y es supremamente importante, y se lo copia Robin, no es una idea mía, de cambiar ese método de innovación que le permite a uno hacer el embudo al revés, entre las ideas y ábranlas de tal manera que no las mate todavía. Yes. Puede que no sean factibles económicamente, pero podrán ser factibles en la medida en que hay otros valores adicionales, otros servicios, otra forma de hacer sentir el cliente para volverlo miembro realmente. Yeah. Robin, gracias. Yo te quiero dejar a ti con una conclusión final y una despedida para nosotros aquí en Colombia.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure to be here. I have to say, this is maybe the most innovative conference that I've ever been at, and I speak all the time. So I'm just so impressed by overall what you've done and what your team has put together here, by the really smart, really good questions that you've all asked. It's been, really a fantastic introduction to the Colombian business scene. So thank you very much. It's been a real pleasure.
Gracias.
Esperamos hayan disfrutado de la conferencia y se puedan llevar el conocimiento para aplicarlo en sus empresas. Muchas gracias por acompañarnos. Ya tendrán próximas noticias del Círculo del Conocimiento Coordinadora. Buen día.